Our second individual award this morning is our Lifetime Achievement Award. And it's named after Jack Eberspacher, my predecessor in this role, who passed away in 2009, the award was named after him at that time. This year's award winner is well known by everyone in the industry. ARA appreciates his long-term service and support of the association, both personally and from his company. Our honoree has been a member of our board and our executive committee for close to 10 years. He's always worked for the good of the industry, above his own personal interests. He was an early and outspoken supporter in our efforts to create responsible ag. On a personal level, he's been someone that I've looked up to since I first met him during my job interview. He asks the hard questions that sometimes people are afraid to ask, but that need to be asked to have a healthy organization. ARA's benefited from his support, and so have I personally. Please welcome the recipient of this year's 2017 Jack Eberspacher Lifetime Achievement Award, Tip O'Neill from International Raw Materials. Tip. Congratulations.
Thank you, Darren, for those kind words. As much the same as Steve was surprised when he got the letter, so was I. And I had a conversation with Darren saying that really I didn't deserve it, but I would accept it on behalf of really all of our hardworking membership, those of you that have put in so many great volunteer hours. I wouldn't get to this podium, personal feelings aside, and receive this honor if I didn't have the support of others. So I need to thank my family, my wife Sherry, 7 children, 2 of whom are here, my IRM family, the Brooke McMullen, who's now on your executive board, he's the leader of our fertilizer team, plus the IRM team worldwide. Let me segue into my next shout out by asking, how many of you have dogs at home? Notice I said dogs. So these are just an observation from my perspective, but you know how big dogs and small dogs get along in a house, particularly around the food bowl. Well, I've always thought of the history of ARA as being about big dogs and small dogs. And a bulldog, our late President Jack Eberspacher. He was a great guy. In the context of corporate life cycles, Jack's contribution to the ARA is really about a generation ago. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to shout out to Jack a bit and tell you his history. We joined ARA IRM in 2004 at the nudging of another outstanding industry legend, Don Pottinger. Not mentioned in the video this morning, back in those days, having moved to Washington, ARA was struggling, a floundering ship in heavy seas. Revenue was at risk, reserves were limited, and had been further decimated by compounding poor investment decisions. Big industry dogs had tried to force the ARA into a shotgun merger. The efforts had failed after small dog resistance, with lots of recriminations, which lasted for years. A real dog fight at the time. John Hester was our chairman. Jack was a relatively new director. He tenaciously turned the tide on membership, increased dues revenue, and righted the ship. He was all about members and service to members. He was a relentless advocate for ARA, and time and ARA's success under Jack's leadership healed the historical rift. So it's kind of a distant memory. One of the defining differences, and Steve mentioned this, of the ARA as an association is the partnership between our full-time staff and our member volunteers. You are our force multiplier to our staff. Jack wasn't afraid to ask members, not just for financial support, but also work and wisdom. And he reached out to all of us. This tradition continues today with under the exceptional leadership of Darren. So thank you, Jack Eberspacher. In closing, because I've got white hair and no hair, let me leave you with a few observations. The safety. We heard Billy give a report about responsible ag. And we also heard Darren report on his ongoing challenge of playing whack-a-mole with Washington regulators. Our association needs to be both reactive and, more importantly, proactive. Responsible ag has made major progress, but not enough. While we may be enjoying some regulatory relief under the current administration, my personal prediction is it's going to be short-lived. If you want to understand the importance and value of responsible ag, Google Senator Dianne Feinstein and Billy Perkle. No, this is not the latest sexual harassment, the news from Washington. You will find a C-SPAN clip of Billy's testimony before the Senators Committee investigating the West fertilizer disaster. Billy was a rock star, delivering our industry's responsible ag message and how we're going to protect America from some of the threats that are involved with our industry. Thank you, Billy, for your continuing, ongoing, unending support of responsible ag. But all that said, in any case, the federal bureaucracy continues to march forward. It's like horses. They're eating 24 hours a day, it seems. And, of course, they're consuming our tax dollars. About 2 weeks ago, a good example, the National Academy of Sciences, at the direction of Congress, issued an official list of precursor chemicals for manufacturing IEDs. This is, again, a fallout from West fertilizer. TAG, where most of our industry's nitrogen fertilizers, as well as sulfur and sulfuric acid. 43 million tons of product, and ag retail distributes the majority of this volume. Ammonia, urea, UAN, not just ammonium nitrate, not just potassium nitrate, sulfuric acid. We all have these name badges, and if you've been around for a while, you've got tags in the bottom. Pretty soon, we're going to have to wear a tag that says, in the language of your choice, whether it's Arabic or English or whatever your favorite tourist speaks, please buy from me, because we've now been tagged as salespeople of precursors. And of course, below that in English, there'll be please sue me that applies to the plaintiff's bar. This is serious stuff, and I'm sure that the AG and ARA and TFI are going to try to address it. But the National Academy of Science has serious credibility. This is an ongoing attack. This is what our future. This is our future. We need a vibrant, responsible ag. One last comment on the environment, and this is the other area we're under continuing attack. I'm on my way to Nairobi tomorrow. I'm the convener of IFA's working group on UN outreach, and it's the same type of advocacy that Darren does with ARA, except that it's in Rome, New York, or Nairobi. Nairobi is where the UN version of the EPA resides, and so there's going to be a plenary. It's actually starting now, and we'll be over there with the private sector, which is business, the national governments, our own U.S. government, NGOs and the NGOs, civil society. People don't know what an NGO is. An NGO, think of the Sierra Club on steroids. They would be bananas if they kind of heard the types of presentations we've heard this morning and that you will hear in the next couple of days. The intervention, the panel I'm sitting on, and this frames the challenge that we've got. How do we feed our world without killing our planet? Now that's the framework that the UN is looking at, the challenges that agriculture is tagged. We are tagged as a big part of the problem. Hopefully we're going to be, as the panel title suggests, we're going to be part of the solution as well. So the following up on Jim Collins's call for action this morning, you've got to join the global dialogue. You've got to join that dialogue in your community. You've got to do it ongoing. You've got to support your advocacy groups, your state associations, and most importantly, your state's, your spokesperson team, the ARA. Again, thank you for this honor, and thank you for the time this morning.